Oh man, this video is gonna be one banger. I wanna ask you a question. Have you ever sat down to do your painting and you have a vision in your mind where you think you're gonna create this beautiful landscape, imaginary with all these beautiful contrasting colors, but yet it kind of ends up something like this, or worse, this? Yeah, that's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you too. And one of the major reasons this happens is because your colors don't come out the way that you envision because they get contaminated, they mix wrong with other colors, or what Bob Ross always says, you become a mud mixer. And in this video right here, I'm gonna show you so many different tips and ways that you're mud mixing and how to correct it. So that way from here on out, your paintings are gonna be more vivid, your colors are gonna be true, and your landscape's gonna look natural and beautiful. That's right, I'm correcting that all. So here we go. Hey, what is up all you awesome painters out there? My name's Wild and I'm here to help you become bigger and better. Real quick, if this is your first time here, we do a lot of tips, tricks, tutorials, and how-tos, and sometimes I even take you on a little bit of an adventure outside to get inspired for your paintings. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can do me a huge favor and hit the big red subscribe button down below and tick that bell so you know when my videos go live for you. All right, before we begin, gotta tell you something. We're gonna go over to our canvas. I divided it into 6 sections that I'm gonna jump back and forth to teach you some awesome lessons that you can apply to your painting. However, each one of these sections and every time I jump back and forth is a small piece of the puzzle. What I want you to do is watch this video in its entirety and take all of the tips that I do and apply it into the element of your painting, because these are just smaller pieces of the puzzle. You have to take all of these. I'm just breaking it down so you know exactly what you're doing wrong with certain elements. I feel like nobody does that out there, but I'm gonna go over all of the main common reasons: mud mixing, contamination, color spill, color bleed, all those, dull colors that you get that look like poop. We're gonna fix that right here. On my canvas right now, I got it cordoned off into 6 sections. And on our left-hand side, the first common mistake brand new painters make, and some traditional painters out there do, is put down too much liquid medium at the start. If you're a wet on wet painter, that's your liquid white, liquid clear, liquid black. Traditional painters out there, sometimes you're putting on too much of a wash. And what that does is when you have too much of a base medium or base color on there, any color you apply on top of that is creating that extra layer of thick medium or thick paint that's not gonna blend properly. So when you apply other elements in your painting on top of it, like clouds, you're gonna get a lot of contamination and mud mixing, which means your clouds aren't gonna be vibrant and bright and stand out along with other elements in your painting. The simplest thing you can do is make sure you apply the correct layer and correct amount of liquid base. I like to make sure that I put down a layer of gray gesso. I know you don't see it in the example here, but I've talked about it a number of times, so you know I'm a fan. Put down a layer of gray gesso and slowly apply your liquid base medium. So this way you can see how much you need to spread around across your entire canvas. When you think you've got the correct amount, I like to do the finger touch. Tap in all the sections with your 4 fingers and see if there is just a little bit of paint on the end of your fingertips. It essentially should look like a crime scene photo when people take their finger, put it down. You should see some ridges. That lets you know you put the correct amount down. If you have big blobs or it's completely covered, you don't see any like ripples in your fingerprints, you have too much. Either take a paper towel, a clean paper towel, wipe some off, take your paintbrush, work some paint off of it with the bristles, get them clean, and go back and take off the excess paint and retouch it again. If you're adding too much liquid base or liquid wash at the beginning, you're going to have a hard time from here on out for the rest of your painting. You know, one thing I get asked all the time when it comes to mud mixing and contamination of colors is the age-old question of how do I stop my blue from getting on my paintbrush when I'm making clouds? I'm looking at you, Zach. Yeah, I get asked this question all the time, and Zach from the community asked that. I'm gonna put Zach right here. Thank you for asking this question, because this one's for you. So how about you do me a favor? Become a YouTube channel member. Thanks, bro. When you're putting in your sky, it's generally blue. The sky is generally blue for most paintings you're gonna do out there, or some variation of. Blue is one of the most strongest pigment colors you will come across in your painting's career. So what we need to do is introduce just a little bit of sky at a time. We can always add more, but start with just a little bit of pigment. Take your paintbrush, pull some color out on your palette, just a little bit, and make sure you tap evenly across your brush so that way there's a little bit of color on the tips of your bristles there. And you know what? This is all we need to start our painting. Start your strokes that you want, whether if you want some swoops or some cross strokes, work from the top towards the bottom. So that way you can pull that gradient of what you want across and start to shape your sky. Way too many people out there take their paintbrush, go through their palette, and put so much color into it that immediately when you apply it to your canvas, you're putting too much paint down. And when you put color on top of that, that base coat is just gonna come through on top of that white, dulling out your clouds and contaminating your paintbrush super quick. So remember, start small, start with just a little bit of color. Oil paint will go very far. We can always add more, and we can always add more details into certain sections if you want to darken certain spots. For me example, I always like to create a little bit of a vignette out on the corners, so that way my focal point is more towards the center of my canvas. We can just add a little bit more darker color there and then pull it in to where we need, but we don't have to start that way. Let's stick with clouds for just a moment in this next tip. You probably are not thinking about where your clouds are going to appear in your painting. Start doing that. And when you start doing that, you can shape your sky around it. And what I mean by this is start leaving dry space around where you want to form clouds. You don't have to put sky across your entire canvas. You can leave certain sections and carve it out. So that way when you apply certain colored clouds or stormy clouds or big, beautiful white clouds, you have this nice, dry, clean space that's gonna stop contaminating your brush, and it's going to stop mud mixing right in your clouds, making for dull clouds that just fade away. Don't be afraid to vision where your clouds are gonna be and leave that dry space so when you apply clouds on top of that dry space, they're gonna stick, they're gonna be beautiful, they're gonna be vibrant, they're gonna be saturated, and they're gonna have a beautiful contrast against your sky. So remember, basically, just leave space. One technique that I love to do all the time that'll really be a game changer when it comes to stopping mud mixing within your painting, and I actually don't show it that much on this channel here because it takes a lot of time and it's kind of messy, is don't be afraid to use the wipe off technique. What is the wipe off technique? Well, if you have paper towels, shop towels, or a basic, junk towel that I get from like Goodwill all the time. When you put in an element, let's stick with sky again, and you want to put something like a cloud, if you have that deep blue that you know is going to contaminate your cloud color, let's just say it's white or a nice little pink color there to make a beautiful cloud, don't be afraid to take your paper towel, wad it up into the shape that you think you can control, and literally wipe off all the excess color that you don't need around it. This is gonna do two things for you. Not sure if I held up one finger, I meant to. It's gonna do two things for you. One is it's gonna help you shape where your cloud's going to go. So this way you can visualize it. Huge game changer, especially if you're a brand new painter out there. It allows you to kind of play with where you want things to go. I do it all the time. The second thing it's going to do is kind of like one of our first steps there, is it's going to help dry out that canvas there so that way when you apply color to it, it doesn't have all these wet layers on it allowing your paint to mix and mash and muddy up with them. It's gonna have a drier spot where they can stick and be vibrant. Using the wipe off technique is super clutch. I use it all the time for sky and clouds, mountains, trees, far distant bushes, water lines. I use it for so much because it helps me visualize and clean up my canvas so that way I can apply clean and vibrant layers. Essentially, go get yourself some awesome paper towels. In fact, I'll put down in the link here the ones that I use because I actually think they're the best. And trust me, they are, because why would I lie? It's not like I need money to sell out, although love selling out. So yeah, paper towels right down here. In one of my past videos, which is probably one of my best videos that I recommend you check out if you're a brand new painter, I'm gonna put it right here in the top right corner. It's all about getting started. And a cool way to stop mud mixing is using a tip from that video that a lot of people overlook all the time. It's from another YouTube artist called Frank Clark, where he uses an initialism that is essentially have some more fun. You have your horizon, your sky, your midground, and your foreground. And the way that you apply this to you stopping mud mixing and contamination of colors is literally think about where your horizon, your sky, your midground, and foreground are. And if you can visualize the lines, leaving cleaner spaces there. You'll see all the time when Bob Ross is painting, he'll bring the elements and assets of his paintings to a certain section and then fade them out with the canvas background. One of the reasons he does this, other than the fact that it adds natural depth in your painting, is you're leaving layers of your canvas drier, so when you apply colors and layers on top of it, it's gonna have an easier time sticking. I'm super guilty of doing this all the time, and I know you are too, especially with things like skies and mountains. You'll bring your sky super far down, adding extra layers of color you don't need. Same thing with your mountains. You'll bring your mountains all the way down to like the base of your canvas. What that does is you're adding all this extra layer and color, making it harder for other colors and layers to stick on top of that. So if you can visualize where your horizon, your sky, your midground, your foreground, whatever element you're going for in your painting, remember, leave those little bit of white gaps there. We can always go back and add color on top of it, but you'll probably be surprised if you leave that white gap there. Hey, white's a color, by the way. It's gonna add to your painting. How much easier colors will flow off your brush, stick to your canvas, and stop mud mixing because you won't have to force it as much. I've already given away so much good information. This is probably one of my best videos, so I'm glad that you like it. And if you do, give me a nice thumbs up. For our next tip here that's gonna really help you stop mud mixing, and this is a problem I still struggle with, and I've been painting for 5+ years or whatever it is when you add too much pressure with your paint brush and bristles. This happens all the time, and it's gonna continue to happen over your lifetime as a painter because you're gonna always get new paint brushes and you're gonna get new paints, and both of those always act differently. So you're probably wondering, it's like, Wild, well, how do I accommodate or account for things that may change over my time? I got you covered. The simplest step is test your pressure and your bristles and your colors on your palette. Bob Ross would always say, whatever you do on your palette is almost just as or maybe more important than what you do on your canvas. And that is really true. What I want you to do is take whatever brush you're using, pull your color out, and then tap. There should be certain things like little whipped peaks and little indentations on your palette and on your brush. What this means is you've got good application across. And when you're pushing that pressure into your palette, it's letting these little segments coming off the bristles stick. And that means that's gonna translate to your canvas, which means you're gonna get those things that look like thousands of leaves that are forming over your bushes or your trees or laying across your land for things like grass and fields or flowers. Testing it out on your palette is the key to knowing if something's going to stick on your painting. It's also gonna let you know if your paint's too thin, too fat, too thick, too hard, or even sometimes you might have the wrong color, so you may have to introduce some other colors to it. This is a key one, and this one you're gonna struggle with for a long time. I still do, like I said, but testing on your palette before you test it on your canvas is a must. I don't know if any professional painters out there follow me, but if you do, hey, I appreciate the support, and guess what? I'm about to piss you off. When it comes to painting, there is a cardinal rule out there that you always apply thick over thin paint. I want you to take this rule right here and just punch and get rid of it. I want you to not do that rule to start, okay? We're not here to make anything archival at the moment. I want to build confidence in you. What I want you to do is concern yourself about how fattier paints and more flowier paints will stick on top of a firm paint. For example, if you take a nice firm paint out of the tube and make something like a sky, if we take our next paint, which would be our cloud color, which would be white paint right out of the tube, we want to make that flow a little bit more. And there's numerous ways to do this, like we said before. Take some solvent-free gel, some liquid clear, or even paint thinner, and introduce something like a 25% mixture into that white paint and mix it up. You have now just made your paint more flowy by making it fattier, okay? That's gonna have such an easier time sticking on top of your firmer paint that you just applied to your canvas. And learning this rule is way better than struggling with the traditional laws out there. We can get that at another time way down the road. But when you apply this white, nice, fattier paint to your canvas, oh my gosh, it's gonna float right off and you're gonna be like, why did I not learn this lesson? Why did it take me so long? This is so easy, this is so good. I should have followed and subscribed to Wild for Games and became a YouTube channel member months ago. And you're welcome, because this will be a game changer. Learning how to apply flowier paint or fattier paint, whatever term you like to use, on top of your fern paint is gonna open up your world for clouds, creating waterfalls and water in general, and some of the best almighty highlights on trees and leaves you've ever done. It's a game changer, okay? And in fact, I wanna dive a little bit more into this for just a moment. Some of the mediums out there I've used are some of the things I've talked about on this channel, but if I could take a moment, if you want to experiment with some, the ones that I generally use are the Gamblin solvent-free gel. Use it all the time, it's fantastic, it's great and affordable. Something that's probably more in your area if you're in a different country from me is Liquin from Winsor Newton. Fantastic, used by so many professional painters out there, it's even hard to name them all off. I like to also use liquid clear to make my paint extra fatty if I need to for certain flows. That's from the Bob Ross company, but there's other manufacturers out there that make something that's similar, like linseed oil, walnut oil, hemp oil, safflower oil. There's a bunch of different ones. And the last one I would use is sometimes, yes, I like to use paint thinner or mineral spirits to really make it inky or watery, okay? I just want to bring those. If you forget any of these, I'll put links down below to the ones I use and recommend. It is a game changer, trust me. If you're having trouble making paint stick, please buy one of those things down below. Introduce a mixture of anywhere from 10 to 50%. Look at the back of the bottle so you know which one it recommends using. And sometimes you can do multiple things to have multiple layers stick on top of each other. And then you can come back, watch this video, and put a comment down below and go, oh my gosh, Ryan, you changed my life. You're welcome. I think one of the reasons I personally mud mix that I want to share with you that took me a long time to learn that I saw other artists ingrain into me is stop overworking your art piece. A lot of the times we over apply color or over brush or diddle too much with it when we should just do what we need to, step away, and let it be, because that's actually probably better for it. If you try to do too much or add too much, you end up screwing your painting up and you're not going to be happy with it. And the more and more and more you add, the more you actually take away from the painting and the more issues you're introducing, like mud mixing. When you add too many layers, too many colors, they all mash together, and of course we get our almighty poop color. We don't want that. I want you to stop overworking your painting. I do this all the time. Work in smaller sections, and you know what? Put that paintbrush down, step away, and look at it. If it looks good from 3, 6, 9 feet away, hey, that's all you need. Not too many people are gonna look at your artwork from 6 inches away. And if they do, hey, they should probably be buying it anyways. If you made it this far in the video, first of all, thank you very much, I appreciate it. But I'm gonna give you a bonus tip here at the end that I actually realized that I forgot to put in when I was first making this video. And I only realized now that I was editing it all together for you out there. But I wanna say with all these previous steps, like I said, these are all smaller pieces of the puzzle. If you can take all of these tips and lessons I just showed you and apply them all together into your painting, you're gonna have a beautiful, awesome painting. I mean, look at my bottom right-hand corner here. I put in just a basic sky where I didn't apply too much color. I pulled it down to a nice horizon point where I left some extra blank space. Then I introduced some flowier paint for my clouds that came easily off my paintbrush, and they formed beautifully against my sky there or to where they weren't contaminating, and I left some extra space, and I even wiped off with my paper towel. Then when I have to apply a grass field and I want to apply what in my mind I think is some beautiful golden poppy flowers really quick, I just took again a nice fattier paint, tested it on my palette, then slightly pushed with the correct pressures that I need to have a nice flowery hill, and then everything else flows in its spot. And within just under 2-3 minutes here, I made a nice landscape that has a sky, clouds, grassy hills with a little bit of a water scene. And that's all from just learning how to stop mud mixing with all of these steps that you can combine together. But what about that bonus tip I want to give you that I just thought of? This is perhaps one of the best ones that I can give you out there, is when you're doing painting, and especially for you wet on wet artists out there, you know what? The best mud mixing tip is wait for it to tacky up or wait for it to dry completely and go back and add more layers. Just because you see Bob Ross and Bill Alexander and Paint with Kevin complete these paintings in less than 30 minutes, less than an hour, and other painters out there that do time lapses that are less than 2 or 5 hours, doesn't mean you have to do that. Enjoy the journey. Get to a certain spot, and if you know you struggle with something, stop for the day. You can always work on another artwork piece, set that other piece to the side, let it tack you up for a couple hours or a couple days, or heck, even weeks if you want, then go back and repaint or re-wet the canvas and add what you need to. This is one of my favorite things to do, and one of the reasons I like to do it is, yes, I still struggle with trees. I still struggle with bushes. I still struggle with envisioning how I want my land to go because I don't actually use any reference photos. I think of it all freehand for the most part. It's good to step away from your artwork, let it tacky up at times, and it's also going to give you a chance to envision where you can take that piece. This will really help you out a lot. And a lot of painters don't do it because they feel like they have to keep up with the Art Joneses, if you will. If he does it an hour, and if he does it under an hour, I have to do it in 30 minutes to prove my worth. No, this isn't a competition out there, okay? You work at your own pace, and you go with what you think is best. And if you go with what you think is best, obviously the correct move is to hit the subscribe button down below, become a YouTube channel member, and leave me a comment. This was a huge video for me to do, and it took a long time to put together. So do me a favor and help me out because I want to help you out and can continue, hard word to say, to help you out. I love you all. You guys are amazing, and I know this video will stop you from mud mixing and contaminating your colors. So much, in fact, I'm gonna put a video over here to the side that you can apply all these rules and lessons to make one heck of an art piece. Wild wishing the best of luck, take care, and of course, I really could have been an 80s hairband.